Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first featured modder feature here in Modders Inc. We got for the month of April, we have Team Kill Ninja here with Travis Jank and Richard Surroz, obviously known as V2 and Dark Beavis in various forms. Well, welcome to the featured modders of the month, guys. So, how are you doing?
Hey, doing great. We're having a good time here in beautiful Florida, finishing up the Vanilla Ice Project Season 5.
Oh, nice. So, basically, for guys those who are not familiar with Richard's project and Travis's project, you're hiding in a rock because they've been very prolific with their modding, not just as they mentioned with the Vanilla Ice project, but also working in conjunction with various manufacturers. So, I know Richard has been working with Primo Chill for several years now, and also his work with NVIDIA on the QuakeCon booth. I saw that personally with their what would you call that? Basically, an open air test bench. Oh, guys, I know Travis mentioned working hard on that for last minute.
Yeah, so that was the basically the wall PC is what that one was.
This one, walk me through the components you guys were using here and this one. A lot of it is sponsored. A lot of it is also provided by NVIDIA. So is that something that you guys kind of planned before to as a sort of as a modder when you started? Were you always wanted to kind of work with manufacturers in this degree?
Yeah, well, this one was actually we did it for NVIDIA for as Maker Faire.
Maker Faire, yeah. San Mateo.
Yeah, so they had at the event, and they had a special, so they wanted us to use a hardware that was on that special. So we decided to kind of lay it out and make it as a good instructional piece, so we could actually show how a computer works instead of having it be locked up inside of a cage. And we've been working with NVIDIA since I think 2007 or 2008. Doing modding projects for them. So we have a long history with them and Asus as well, doing special commission builds for these companies.
Now, how did you guys get started with the modding? Was it something? Did you start with computers, or was it? Did you start with modding right away and kind of work the computing angle into it? Did you start with a background in art, maybe?
Yeah, well,
I guess modding is a lifestyle. Before I even got involved in computers, I was always tearing things apart and kind of putting my own spin on it and personalizing it. So it came across with my first PC. It was out of necessity, so I started to mod it. For cooling, basically, I was into overclocking. I started to mod it, put bigger, better fans in it, rip the side panel off, put a box fan on there. Really rudimentary. In the winter, I ducted cool air from the outside directly into the PC case and exhausted the air back outside. I put a side window on the computer so people could see the inside. I mean, I had this really fast computer. I was trying to explain processor, video card to people, but all they saw was a beige box. So for me, cutting a side window came out of necessity to be able to show people and have them visually cue in on what I was talking about.
Yeah, it definitely all goes back. I know we have split between overclockers and case modders, but it also was the original genesis. So back in the days of the 286, back when I was a cop and I was the only who could repair these computers, I found out I had to do some good cable management with the origami, with the IDE cables. You had to put them like origami to get good flow in there, so you didn't overheat. And like Travis said, putting more fans in. I used to make a wall of fans just to get more airflow. And if you wanted to get that in a nice little overclock, you just had to do those aesthetic things that also impacted performance. So it really started all at the same place. It split apart for several years, but now it's all coming back together where we're bringing aesthetics and performance in that one package. So it's kind of a cool thing to see that we're going back to the future.
And you guys have been partnered for a while now, and can you walk us through how you guys met and why exactly this dynamic works, you think? Because not a lot of modders kind of, I've seen some of the successful ones partner up together, and they have different dynamics. So what would you say the dynamics between you two are? Who is the captain, who's Tennille, or is this more of a brotherhood, equal parts of the same thing, or two different halves that kind of work mesh well together?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we don't really need neither of us seem to take the lead. It's just we just work well together. Oftentimes we don't even have to talk. It's almost like we're husband and wife. It's kind of scary.
Almost, yeah.
I'm the husband, you know, that's why I have the beard in this relationship.
Yeah, and I look good. I look killed. So.
You know, it's crazy because when Rich and I first met, like, you know, 10 years ago almost, it was me bringing this crazy liquid nitrogen cooled computer to a LAN party, and he's going, "What the hell is this guy doing?" You know, and he's looking at the computer, and it just looks like a rat's nest. And there were tubes and wires and cables everywhere, and it was ugly. I mean, it did the job. It was fast. It was amazing. I loved it. I could play some games on it and whatnot. Then he shows me his stuff, and he's got this beautiful Stormtrooper-themed airbrush computer and whatnot. To find out it's an Alienware. For me, performance, Alienware, I knew he paid way too much, and there was not a whole lot going on the inside. So when I started talking about performance and hardware to him, he really didn't know what the hell was going on. You know, he's trying to say something about liquid cooling. He had problems with it leaking. He had all these video cards.
That was the ghettoest liquid cooling ever.
I mean, it was bad. And I'm looking at this thing. Oh my, it looks nice on the outside, but it's just a clunker on the inside. And
yeah, so I combined the built-in Alienware freaking coolant system, and I had it go from like 1/4 inch to like 3/8 inch tubing, with like the, you know, things that change it, with the first Danger Den full coverage blocks, and as that freaking block like leaked, CPU block cracked and leaked all over, a Thermaltake block leaked all over, you know, my video cards and crap. It was just, yeah, that was a learning experience. So it's come a long ways.
Yeah. You know, at that time I had the fastest computer in the event, and he had the best looking computer in the event. It was, you know, we weren't really, you know, like thinking about it, but at the time it was kind of like melding those two opposing worlds together. And I was educating him on how computer perform the way that it looked, and then he's saying, you know, that race car's fast, but you got to make it beautiful. You got to make it look fast. People have to know it's fast. You know, you got to put it in a case. You got to add some color to it. Put, you know, sleek style on it. Make it aerodynamic somehow. And that kind of got like my spark going with saying, okay, you know, I've been modding stuff for a long time, but I never really thought of modding as a form of art. And I looked at Richard as, you know, he's just trying to make this thing look beautiful. He's an artist in some way, and more of like the engineer that was just trying to make it functional and improve upon those designs.
I kept it. I can't keep it anymore. I'm an overclocker, not a modder.
Exactly.
And I think we can kind of gauge what you guys were going for in terms of your design, your philosophy when it comes to modding, because with Richard's out of the box name for his website, and Travis Next Gen Computing, when you kind of combine it together, you can kind of see where that philosophy lies really with the projects you guys are doing. Starting from the very beginning, you mentioned before, Richard, I've seen a lot of your interviews before, where you mentioned that your pivotal point in modding happened when you did your autopsy build, which was basically was it a mannequin that you kind of outfitted into a system?
Yeah. So actually, its name is actually Mannequin Skywalker.
Let me open it up here.
Yeah. So my wife wanted to do something that was you know, kind of medical related, because she's a veterinarian. Yeah, and so she wanted to make it look like an autopsy. We kind of met in the middle and made it look a little more techy, you know, with the translucent type mannequin. So we took a medical skeleton, or you know, from a medical shop that you could buy. We used a painting process using Alls paint that makes it look like it's dark nickel plated. And then I installed all the body parts analogous to human body parts, all the water cooling. So you have over the heart, the power supply is a GI system. You have a hard drive in the brain. And then that was the first set of Crucial Ballistics tracers that I had that had the RAM in it. They're actually PDX Vector Edition RAM, so really limited edition. And I put fiber optic cables on top of the LEDs in the RAM, and they traversed up through a laser cut acrylic brain. And so they went on and off with the memory activity. So yeah, that was the first one, and I still have it in my shop.
You probably have like a whole collection now. Where do you store all of that? Or do you keep them, or do you give it to the manufacturers?
Well, actually, Travis takes them, and they're all in his shop at the modding museum in Idaho. So he has them all on display.
You guys did the TEDx talks. Each of you actually did. Travis did the talk on the Bitcoin, while you, Richard, had the discussion about the future of computing. That idea, the philosophy you were trying to convey there with the, and how do you think that applies? How modding kind of fits into that?
As we from mainframes and obviously the desktops, that allows us, a larger area of creativity, because you want your computer to obviously be individualized and personalized. So as we move away from leaning so much on the desktop, I don't think that we'll actually have high-end processing being removed from our household. It'll be take more of a server type role, and it'll be distributed devices like I mentioned in my TED talk. You'll still want to do individualization on your individual devices. I mean, I remember back in the day when we had Nokia phones, I was into modding phones, on clear cases and LEDs and holographic things over the screen. So, and even today, like with their iPhone cases, people will bedazzle and do all types of things. So there'll always be that place for creativity. But I just think the type of computer you're going to have in your house is going to be a little bit different. When you have a home server in your house, just like you'll see that we're doing on the show, you'll probably want it to be something that looks pretty and will be something that will blend in with your house, or maybe you'll want to have it be blingy and a hot rod, kind of like some of the Modders Inc. guys, especially Craig and Daddy like to do crazy ass, big ass hub in your computer and stuff like that.
Let's talk a little bit about the project you guys did. Was it just Richard? Did you go to France and did the Asus Dream Machine?
Yeah. So they brought a bunch of us modders. He was with me from the U.S. and we just had like a week-long mod competition where we were building, not so much modding the product itself because it's a product launch, and so they really wanted to remain pristine since they're trying to market that product, but a way to bring attention and highlight the features and performance of the different products that we were showcasing. And so I did the GR8, and I really had no idea what to do. And so I looked at the tattoos on my arm, and I said, you know what, I'm going to make one of these spiders into a display case for this puppy, and just kind of ran with it.
From what I understand, you guys only had 30 hours to do it, and you guys had to kind of bring your materials with you, or did they provide the material?
Well, they had some stuff, but mostly we had to bring our materials, and they had all the tools and everything for us that we needed. It's actually insanely impressive. Any modder would go in there, and as soon as you walk in that room, your heart just dropped. You're like, I can believe this. This is like hog heaven.
I know you guys have materials that you're familiar and more comfortable with, and I've seen a lot of your works kind of lean into the acrylic part. I don't see a lot of modders kind of lean into that. What makes acrylic kind of something that you're really comfortable with working with? What is it about that material that you like?
It's a material that you can use hand tools with, and it's a material that you can laser. It's a material that comes in all different thicknesses, different colors. It's really amazing. You can get foil backed, you can get translucent, even some of them that you can apply electricity to and change the transparency of it. So it's a very high-tech material, and when you're computers, it just adds another level to what you can do with it. It really just kind of opens the doors to your imagination and creativity, and you have to learn each new material you come across with the acrylics. And there's such a variety. It's not just like, oh, here's steel and here's some aluminum. It really is something that's quite cool. And I guess the other thing about it too, from an aspect I've always liked, is the fact that it's not conductive. So it can come really close and meld really well with electronics, where you're working on metal, shaving slivers, they can fall off onto the system, or the board can come in contact with the chassis and cause a short or something like that.
Yeah, and the really cool thing about acrylics and plastics is that when they're combined with these other materials that you mentioned, like maybe like aluminum, a brushed aluminum panel with like UV green acrylic or UV blue, it just brings out the other materials that it's around. So it's really kind of a unique material to work with.
Yeah, and also one of the materials that don't really get used that often to the degree that you guys use it. I think it's safe to say that you guys are kind of pushing the boundaries of what can be done with acrylic materials, just from your mods. And speaking of modding, Richard will be judging the case mod competition. I think you also judged the Cooler Master case mod competition last year.
Yeah, it's a third year for me.
It's a third year for you, and what criteria are you looking for? I'm not gonna ask you to divulge every single thing, so just so they would tailor their mod to your taste and get more points that way. But what do you like to see, and what don't you like to see? So let's explore both aspects.
Yeah, first of all, just so you know, they trim it down to make sure that all the ones are eligible. So I mess with all that political and stuff like that, and thankfully voting is not going to be impacting it this year as far as worldwide voting. When I look at it, bottom line, I look at the end result first. Okay, and so I mean I appreciate when people do things hands-on versus using a CNC equivalent, both, and so it's the end result that how it comes out. I want to see their process. For me, actually, work logs are very important. So if I see someone is putting more effort into a work log to share with the community, that makes a really good impression on me. And it's just really a matter of their execution. So, what they described they're trying to do in the beginning and how well they executed it in the end. The quality of work, details. And I really like to dig in and look at details, especially in the little nooks and crannies of the work logs, and try to find out, well, what does it really look like behind that panel if I can tell? How well did they do their wire management? They pay like really good attention. Like this year, I'll be looking at good use of cable films in their cable management. If they're doing hardline or rigid tubing bending, I'll look at the quality of their bends and look at how well that was executed as well. What does their case look like? As far as the shape. If they're modeling a case, did they keep distinctness into the case so I can tell what the original case is? Because that's something I really like to also see if you're doing a case mod. Add to the case, but keep it identifiable. If you're modding like a Cosmos, I still want to see some Cosmos lines to it so I can tell what it is.
And of course, you are, other than modding, you're also well known for your you call it trolling, but I don't think it's really trolling. I think it's more the way people kind of react to it. But and you're one of these guys who are not shy to kind of give their opinion on what sucks about modding. So feel free to kind of describe what you think is a trend or a kind of practice that people do in modding now that you dislike. Not kind of. That feel free to talk shit completely. I don't want to get you in trouble, but feel comfortable doing that.
Well, I have a couple pet peeves, and I don't want to. I'm sure Travis, he's pushes me to go after people too. Number one is taking credit for other people's work. Really pisses me off. I ever see that, I don't care whose work you're stealing. I've been in this for so long that I keep track of who does what, as much as I can, and I have a good memory going years back. Like one guy was trying to steal Kohlmeister's Cosmos build, and I just went after him. Came down like like lightning on him, and poor guy didn't know what happened to him. So I mean that's really big. I like to educate the community, especially how to move from amateur to professional, how to navigate the waters. But a lot of people come out and all they care about is, hey, I want sponsors, I want sponsors. And my big message to them is that if you're modding, it shouldn't be to get sponsors. Sponsors should be a side benefit of having a nice portfolio. So focus on the art, focus on doing your mods, do it gradually. Don't worry about having to push through too fast. Be part of communities like modders, and learn from the people out there. But don't be in a rush. Things will happen when they're supposed to happen.
Yeah, I think that's also, as a reviewer, I'm not a modder, I've never modded anything, but as a reviewer, I kind of hear the same thing from people who want to be a reviewer. they think like, oh, you're getting all this stuff, but they don't see that there's a responsibility when you are a sponsor or when manufacturers kind of give you this stuff, where you kind of there is kind of a line that you have to follow, and they think that once you get it, they get complacent. They don't want to monitor. I've seen that a lot with modders. They get sponsored, and you see their build, they don't finish it, or their next build is significantly crappy than the last one. So it's not exactly like you said. There has to be a passion driving your artwork other than just the hardware at the end of the rainbow there. And
yeah, I mean, I have a secret weapon too, so I'm kind of lucky. Like you mentioned at the very beginning of this, you mentioned not a lot of modders work together. Well, I mean, I've gotten most of the glory out of Travis and I, which hasn't been fair. But I mean, Travis has done a hell of a lot of the work. Especially with all this traveling I've been doing lately, like all these builds when something needs to be done and we don't have time to completely finish it, Travis is the one who pulls the weight and he gets it done. And so, I'm very fortunate to have this guy, beside me. It's a secret weapon.
Well, that's a secret now. Hopefully.
You're gonna edit that part out, right?
Well, what about where do you think modding is going in terms of, because eventually desktops will just get smaller and smaller, but there will be the ATX segment will shrink, but it might still be there for a few years. So where do you think the modding, what modding looks like in like the next 5 years?
Wow. I can at least say for the next 5 years, we're gonna have modding, we're gonna have PCs, we're gonna have a good time. Once you start to go out something like 10 years and you start to look at the natural evolution and curve of where technology is going, energy efficiency, more portability, more form factor, we're even getting into like flexible, more durable materials now. The biggest concern for modding with me as technology goes on is disposability. We start to see where somebody might buy a tablet and just throw it away and buy a new one, and throw it away and buy a new one, and just over and over and over again, and they don't see the computer. But modding might be what kind of brings extra value to those devices. You're going to personalize it. You're going to want to make it something that you enjoy, that your brand. And it's how you express your personality. So essentially, I guess you look at modding is basically the personality behind the person. It is it is something that you can use to share your thoughts and knowledge with others. So you might look at it from the standpoint that even though technology is getting smaller and things are getting disposable, modding might become something that's more frequent. You might have newer technologies that are more conveniently accessible, like 3D printing. 3D printing, brings along even more disposability or one-time use, but at the same time, it's opened up a larger demographic for modders. We have more people now that can do advanced mods that they couldn't, access a CNC or an injection mold or something like that. They didn't have access to a laser. They don't have the skills and the dexterity to use hand tools to make something, but they can purchase an inexpensive 3D printer and start to customize and make unique things. So I think modding is going to continue to grow as a community, and we're going to start to see it branch out into new channels and new avenues that we don't even know about yet. As new technology comes along, you're going to start to see modded smartwatches in a matter of time.
Yeah, wearables is where it's happening, is where it will happen, and I spoke at a PAX East panel, I think the first one probably about 4 years ago. I was on a panel as the only computer modder, and the rest of the gals were all, did crafts and stuff like that. Like they made stuff and they sold on Etsy, hats and things like that. You're going to see is it's no longer going to be computer modding, it's technology modding, and they will be brought into the fold because we'll have wearables embedded in clothes, like Travis said, watches, jewelry, all things that will actually be functional extensions of your phone that will have processing built into them.
And you guys have been working right there where you are right now. You are in Florida because you're working on the Vanilla Ice project. You mentioned for what season is it now? At season 5. So you're there to build a new system or update the system to a newer hardware inside.
This is a whole new thing. It's nothing like what we did before.
So we definitely have to stay tuned with that. So you guys want to give out the channel, and is there an air date set, or?
We don't have the air date, but the first show of this season actually airs this Saturday on DIY Network. I think it's 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 or no, yeah, 7 or 10 or something on at night on DIY Network. I'm not sure when our episode will air because we're still filming that, and so it'll be later in the season. And you can go on DIY Network and look it up, or hit us up on Facebook, and when we have information, we'll share.
And we're about to wrap the interview, but for that, the last question I would give, I plan to kind of ask everyone, every modder in here, is name one mod in particular from any modder in any year, other than from each of you guys, obviously, that you think is the most, something that influenced you the most personally, that affected you as a modder. One of you each. Can't be the same.
Okay, well, actually, I'm going to step back a bit. Going before modding, even the first boutique company that I think that inspired most of us modders, probably including Bill Owen, I imagine, would be Voodoo PC. Way back in the day, because even like Bill's stuff looks like a lot. Some with their stuff they used to have chromed out interiors and stuff like that. For me personally, I'd have to say, I mean, Boddicker is the modder I most look up to and I'm inspired by. He has so many, but I'd have to say probably the Tron bike is, I think, my favorite of his so far.
Would you, Travis?
I've seen a lot of mods over the years, and one that really struck home with me personally, it's something that I've always strived for, and I felt like I've never achieved, was Peter Brand's, and just what he's been able to do overall with the system, the amount of time and effort that goes into it to polish every little bit. He pulls the whole computer together, every little part, every little piece. He puts a little flavor on there, and it all comes together into like a work of art. And just a look from the outside, it's beautiful. But as you start to look in and look at the components and the layout and what he chose to do, all of it is very beautiful and very laid. I can tell there's an enormous amount of thought that goes into it. And I fell in love with it. When he came up with the cross-desk prototype, that really hit me because it was like computer furniture, and I just thought that is the coolest thing ever. I mean, so for so long computers sat on a desk, and now we actually have a functional piece of furniture, and it was so beautiful. It came together as a complete project, and that really has stuck with me for a long time and still continues to inspire me on future projects and current projects.
And definitely two very good picks there. And thanks for tuning in to the first featured modders. I think this will be a monthly thing I'm trying to do. And thank you very much to Team Kill Ninja, Travis Jank, and Richard Surroz for agreeing to an interview.